All right, let's dive right in. We're about to go on a really personal journey, one that so many of us walk in total silence. Think of this as a kind of map, a guide through the powerful stages of an internal collapse and then the rebirth that follows, all based on the book When No One Sees You.
And this quote from the author, it really gets to the heart of it. This isn't just another self-help book, no. It's positioned as this intimate, personal process of rediscovery. It's about finding your way back to a part of you that maybe you've forgotten was even there.
So, let me ask you something. A question that comes straight from the book. Have you ever felt like you were screaming, but underwater? It's such a powerful image, isn't it? That feeling of being totally unheard, unseen, and just isolated, even if you're in a room full of people.
That exact feeling? Well, that brings us to the very first stage, the invisible collapse. And the key thing to get here is that this isn't some big, dramatic explosion. It's a quiet erosion, something happening deep within that often goes completely unnoticed by everyone else, and sometimes even by us.
The author puts it this way: a person doesn't just fall all at once.
They erode slowly. And that, right there, perfectly captures it. It's not a sudden break. It's this gradual, slow decay happening just beneath the surface of your everyday life.
And what's so important to understand is that the problem isn't out there somewhere. It's not external. The cracks, the fractures, they were forming inside of you. A fundamental shift in your inner world long before anything started to show on the outside.
So what causes this slow erosion? Well, the book points to these hidden burdens that we carry. And these are things I think we can all recognize, right? A relationship with no love in it, a childhood that lacked tenderness, that constant nagging fear of poverty, or the heavy weight of being the one person that everyone else relies on. Each one is just another layer of exhaustion, another silent weight on your shoulders.
Now, all of this erosion, it inevitably leads you to the next phase, drifting away from yourself. This is where that feeling of being detached, almost numb, really starts to take hold.
And the book is really specific about what this feels like. It's not quite sadness, and it's not the same as clinical depression. It's described as something way more elusive, a state the author just calls drift, like you're silently sliding away from your own life. And this drift, it creates this huge internal disconnect. You find yourself comparing who you remember being, alive, full of energy, present, with who you feel like you are now, numb, distant, lost. It's almost like you become a spectator in your own life, watching it happen from a distance.
Eventually, this state of drifting, it can't last forever. It leads to a breaking point. This is what's called the moment of truth, or a brutal unveiling. And this is that painful but totally necessary confrontation with reality.
The book does not sugarcoat this moment one bit. The quote is just stark. The unveiling is not beautiful, it's brutal. So this isn't some gentle movie-like awakening. It's a harsh, unfiltered look in the mirror at your own self-deceptions.
So how does this unraveling actually happen? Well, it's broken down into 3 really clear steps. First, all the stories you told yourself just to keep going, they collapse. They just don't work anymore. Then, the excuses, they vanish. Self-deception is just no longer an option. And finally, the truth is revealed. You see yourself completely stripped bare of all the facades.
So after a brutal moment of truth like that, what could possibly come next? Well, that's when you enter the path to surrender. And this is that incredibly tough process of moving from fighting against your new reality to finally accepting it.
This brings us to a really important idea in the book, conscious surrender. And it's so important to understand that this has nothing to do with giving up. It's the moment you stop fighting yourself. It's about ceasing the war against your own inner truth. It's an act of incredible strength, not weakness.
This whole emotional path, it kind of follows 4 steps. It starts with resistance. Trying to convince yourself you can just go back to the way things were. That creates this intense tension where you feel torn between the old you and this new one. But from there, you can move into acceptance, where you start seeing yourself with gentler, more compassionate eyes. And finally, you arrive at presence. You start noticing the little things again, the small details of life.
And that presence, that leads us right into the final stage of this whole journey, returning to your core. This is all about finding a quiet sense of wholeness, the emergence of a new and much more authentic self.
So what does this transformed self actually look like? Well, you start to choose silence as a value, not as a retreat. You find freedom in simplicity, not seeing it as a lack of something. And this one is huge. You no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. Your inner peace becomes your #1 priority, and you finally make peace with being a work in process.
And it all comes together in this one profound redefinition of what it means to be whole, captured perfectly in this quote. Wholeness isn't about becoming some new, perfect version of yourself. It's about returning to who you already are, and in that return, finding everything you needed. So, we're going to leave you with this final thought to just sit with. It's a question that gets to the very core of this entire journey. When no one is watching, when no one sees you, who are you becoming?